Well, g'day and welcome back, all you fine folks. And in case you can't tell, I'm kind of excited because in this episode, we are finally going to be putting together the air ride system for the new project. Stay tuned. Well, in case you're a new addition to the channel and you haven't seen a lot of my older videos, you might not know this floor pan that I've got here in the background. This is the original air ride pan that I built, a few years back, and it was originally under this car. But for reasons unexplained and unknown even to me, it's not under that car anymore, and it has a new project being built on it, which as we speak is in the paint booth being painted. So this is kind of exciting for me. And what I need to do before it shows up, because when it comes back on the trailer, I just want to pop it straight back down on the pan. I need to get some stuff sorted out. I need to get this thing, moving forward. And what does that mean? That means the air ride system. This is the bracket that I got from Limebug, including all the pumps, the metering block. There's so much. I mean, I spent hours bending all this stuff up, and this is only the good stuff. You should see the pile of mistakes. I got pressure switches and relays and fuses and all of that, as well as a lot of this stuff over here. There's airlines and fittings and this whole box full of airline fittings that I need to sort out. I got gauges and looms and I've been collecting bits for ages for this project, and it's kind of finally time to start putting it together. Now, in a previous episode I mocked this thing up. I had it all bolted together, but I didn't paint anything, and now I've painted it. I ended up painting that with a high temp caliper paint. I find it's a nice paint. It's very glossy. And while I was at it, I painted the pedals up as well, so they're going to be nice and new. That's one thing I've got to do before I put the body back on, is get them back in, clutch cable installed. I had robbed the clutch cable out of this car for another car, so it's kind of what happens when projects sit. They get parts robbed off them. Yeah, so that's got to happen. Got to fix up the brake master. All that kind of stuff has to happen before I can put the body on it. I also need to, I've been clearancing the body for the pan, but I also think I'm going to clearance the top of this trans for the body. I think I can just take a good chunk out of that thickness there, and it will actually sit on there a bit better. So these things I need to do before this body shows up. But what I want to do right now is start bolting together this air ride system. So, what did I say? This air ride system. Anyway, stay tuned. Air ride systems, fun to build, quite technical. I hope you guys can tag along. So, after doing the mock-up, I realised that things have to go together in a certain order. This here is the metering block. So this, basically what it does is it turns electric switches into air control. So, that's the loom for that, which I can probably unplug, but it has the inlets and the outlets and the pressure valves, like the pressure gauges and all of that combines it. So you don't have a heap of, ugly air switches, I guess. And we're trying to make this thing look like a work of art, I guess, is the idea. Now this mounts up. The idea now is also to try not to scratch everything as we put it together. This mounts up there, and the compressors mount each side and feed back into the tank. But what I need to do is I need to convert you know, from that thread to an AN fitting to a hard line. So, you know, I've got a heap of this kind of stuff going on. I just figured it was kind of the neatest way of doing it. So, you know, there's a small fortune in AN fittings here, and each one of those is going to go into there. And then there is a series, I've got to remember how they go, of these, which I've bent up. And each one of those will go, I mean, that's obviously, you know, facing that way. We'll plug into that AN fitting, and then underneath there, where you don't see it, I'll convert back to airline, or like a, no, what do they call it? Like a plastic airline, which is this stuff, just to make it a bit more pliable. But, you know, this stuff doesn't look very neat. So in this system, each wheel has its own air supply, so it's not just a front and back. So, you know, one line will run down to this shock, and one will run to there, and one to that bag, and one to that bag. And in that way, I have some control over each you know, corner. And from that, I have this gauge, which once powered up, has 5 separate readings on it, one for each wheel and one for the tank. And I've got to try and figure all of that out, as well as tidying up looms. I mean, look at this, there's a lot of wire there that I have to do something with. You know, whether I can cut and shorten them and stuff, I don't know yet. So this is that kind of day. Anyway, I'll keep cracking. I'm going to bolt this thing down. I'll get these airlines, you know, these AN fittings fitted, these ones, and then we'll just try and, you know, progress on this thing a bit. All right, so I've made a bit of headway here. I've managed to bolt the metering block down and start assembling the AN fittings that need to hook into these hard lines. You know, the tricky bit is, even after mocking it up, you know, once, I'm still finding things that I did, you know, wrong. For instance, the fittings that go to the pressure, what are we calling them? Like the pressure gauges, the bolts are actually sticking lower than the block. So I've had to pack up the back of them. And so now this block's actually sitting not quite level, which I'm fine with that. I think it'll be okay. But it's just those funny little things. You think you're going to do it once and that's it. So now I've got to try and remember which ones of these fittings, you know, which one of these hoses I've bent up. And believe me, when I bent these up, there was a pile of mistakes. So I don't have any more of this line. This is actually, I've got 2 different hard lines here. This is a steel hard line. I found it just bent, even though it was harder to bend, the bends were crisper than the alloy line. The alloy line tended to kind of mark more. So anyway, I've run with this on these, and I think I've figured out which one's which. The longer one goes to the inner ones. Pretty sure that's like that. And I've got to figure out, this is going to take me a few times, like I've got to feed it through gently now. And once it's through all the way in, I've got to actually cut off, God, I don't know if I've, I don't know if I've done this right now. I feel like I might not have left enough, or unless that was meant to go in that one. God, if I have left enough, it's only just. There's just so many variables. Anyway, I'm going to keep playing with this for a bit. So you can see I've put the hard line to soft line adapters on the bottom where no one will see them. Got every single spanner and tool out that you can imagine. But we are getting somewhere. That did take a minute. But the hard lines are in the top where they want to look nice. And they're not perfect. Look, I'm not going to try and lie to you and tell you that, you know, anything I do is perfect, but that looks pretty neat, and I'm pretty happy with that. You know, we'll tweak them a little bit here and there just to make them kind of sit the best that they can for what they are. And I'll, you know, tweak all these up. These have got the basically that fitting. Let me show you. See if I can move this out of the way with one hand. It's getting heavier. So that fitting is this fitting here, which has a swivel on one side, so you can kind of, you know, do them up and do them up. And it has this, the nut, and inside of that nut is a brass olive. So that's a compression fitting that basically just clamps all that on. So now what I need to do is go from here. These are the inlets to the metering valve that comes from the tank, but I'm not going to put the tank on until I've got those lines on, because it's all, you know, it all gets very, very tight. So, well, we got the tank mounted up, which is a good start. I ended up having to drill some holes. I'd forgotten to drill holes to mount the tank up. It's probably a smaller tank than what this bracket's designed for. I feel like, you know, this bracket's designed for the tank mounts to be out here, but I'm looking for a, you know, quick charge, quick release, so let's just hope this thing works. Now I've got these lines. These are aluminium lines. As far as I've heard, they're designed for 2000 psi, so, you know, let's just hope that works. I really feel like I'm gonna have issues with the lengths of these things. But the way I designed them to go from there, you know, to in. Which I just don't think they're going to be long enough. I have got these, I've got elbows that I could kind of re-bend them maybe. Let's have a look at that. So these are these, rather than being a direct, ooh, that one doesn't fit. Right, kind of didn't realise I had different fittings in the end of that. I haven't looked into that, so they're not going to work. So it looks like I'm stuck with, oh no, wait up, that's the wrong fitting. Oh. Okay, so that's the fitting there. So I could do something like, that, and just straighten that out and give it a bend straight in there. Maybe might work. If that was there. So yeah, anyway, you know, it's just this tedious trying and retrying and trying and trying and trying new fittings. So I'll just keep going and I'll keep up with you. Look, so I've had to redesign how this kind of goes together, and I feel like I've bent up, you know, the right piece, which is going to make it work. However, on the last bend, I kinked it. So now I've got to build that whole piece again, and you know, it just ends up I've just got these bent bits of stuff everywhere. And this, look, it probably would work. It's kinked, but it's not bent. But look, I'm here. It's now. I've still got a piece left, so I may as well just make another one. Anyway, let's see how this goes. Well, I was having a bit of a hard time tightening up some of the AN fittings. I mean, you are meant to use special spanners with them. I don't really care if a couple of them get marks on them, it's more for me just making sure they don't leak. So what I ended up doing is modifications. So I found an old, look, this is a 11/16. I don't even use imperial spanners. I didn't even know I still had any. I threw most of them out. But what I've done is, you can see I've cut the top out of it. So therefore I can actually get, where are you? I can get over the tube, down onto that nut, and actually get a decent turn on it. Let's hope it works. I just got to, see, I've got to be able to grab that, because it's got a swivel in it. I've got to be able to grab that and turn that and hold the pipe steady. It's a bit of a juggle, but anyway, I'll keep cracking. So when I started unpackaging and disassembling stuff, I tried to keep everything, all the hardware, you know, in one spot, because I'm telling you, like, you just start losing your little washers and, you know, your bolts, and each packet had its own little hardware box. So I've got to try and keep all that stuff together, guys. It's just, you know, difficult once you've lost it. All right, well, after remaking those about 3 or 4 times, I feel like I've finally got something that looks, you know, relatively good. I mean, obviously it's gonna see what it looks like under the hood, or bonnet, as we call them. Over here we call them a bonnet. Anyway, so next is, look, I haven't glued those fittings in. What I'm using to glue that in is this, this stuff here called Lock Seal. It is very good for high pressure metal on metal thread connection. You can kind of turn a thread to where you want and it locks, and it kind of, you know, will hold it there, which is cool. So that, I've got that. Next, the compressor mount up, tighten everything up. I haven't done exhausts yet. I mean, they're there. I've got to decide what I'm going to do with that. Look, they may end up just blowing out right there. I may end up plumbing them so they come out under the car and blow dust up, which would be kind of cool. That's just going to be for another day. But for right now, I'm thinking, yeah, compressor mount up. And yeah, I guess that's kind of going to be it for this for a minute until I have the car to bolt it into. I'd love to do a pressure test on it, but to do that, I kind of need to hook all the lines up to something. Anyway, I'll get these compressors mounted up and see where we go. Now, a couple of you that have been watching the channel for a while might know that one of my other cars is also an air ride car. Now, I've turned it back to being only front air ride. Basically, it's running a set of air shocks in the front. And, you know, for reasons unexplained, that car, it just works well like that. So I'm happy to leave it like that. She scrapes a bit, but, you know, it does what it does. But what I wanted to do now is just show you the comparison between the two different air ride setups. And I mean, it's pretty big, you know. That was my first ever attempt at it. This new is my second attempt at it. And, you know, God only knows, I'll probably be doing it again. You know, if you've read the motto in the background there, dascustoms, think slammed. You know, that's how I like my cars, let's just say. So without further ado, let's have a look at this first air ride setup. So this setup, it's still running a Viair pump. I'm not sure how you say that really, but that's how it is. It was one of the, at the time, it was one of the newer pumps they had. Pumps up to 200 PSI, and it is 3.53 CFM, you know, but the duty cycle on it is only, it's 100% at 100 PSI and only 50% at 200 PSI. So obviously when she's under high load, she's not pumping as quick. This one is, you know, it was a little bit crude, you know, like I just kind of bolted her in there. That's the feed line. And then the outlines come up to a couple of air switches in the dash there, behind there, tee off into each switch, and then each switch runs back to an air line that runs to the shock. So she's basically a full air system, and that over there is the little air gauge. I'll take you in there and have you a quick look at what it looks like inside. So you can see those two black switches just there, that's my up and down. And then I've got a gauge, you know, over there somewhere that tells me two different readings. So I've got, you know, each shock, it'll tell me what each one's doing. That is fully aired down at the moment and she sits pretty low. Now, let's go over to the new setup. So, similar size tank, a little bit bigger. We've got two pumps. Now they are slightly more powerful. They're 3.82 CFM. But the duty cycle is at 100 PSI, it's 100%, and at 200 PSI, it's 100%. So that means we're going to be getting more juice even when she's fully cranked. So look, you know, with two pumps. So I've got double the delivery and the setup is going to be quite a bit different where we're running from air using, you know, this valve block here. So electricity, you know, 12 volts is actually opening and shutting the valves rather than, you know, an air switch. Anyway, I hope you guys like that. I'm pretty chuffed with it. I got a feeling that I'm going to be redoing that line. I think I've come a little bit too high there. So we'll have to do something about that. But it's pretty cool. Now these are the dascustoms, you know, compressors. Hey, a couple of you fellas on my last video when I was showing a couple of stickers, hit me up how to get a sticker. Now it's pretty easy really. All you got to do is make sure you subscribe to the channel. You know, if you haven't hit subscribe, now's the time. Make sure you hit subscribe and then hit me up on my Insta, which is das.customs. You'll see a lot of my stuff on there as well. And, you know, send me a message, say, howdy Das, how's it going? Can I get a sticker? You know, this is where I'm at. We'll probably, you know, I'm a chatty kind of guy, so we'll probably have a good chat and then I'll send you a sticker. Don't forget, I've also got shirts. You know, we've got the rat trap on this one. That was when she was still emblazoned. With my mate Tony's work, you know, no longer has that on the car. And then, of course, the grey shirt, which is just the dascustoms logo. I've also got hats, so good time to hit me up. Anyway, that's going to have to do it for me today. I've got this thing to a point where I need to bolt it into the car to make it, you know, any better. And, you know, the weekend is just about over and I've got other duties that I've got to attend to. Can't just be working on V-dubs all the time. Anyway, this is Das. I'm Das. This is Das Customs signing out and I'll catch you all later.